Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching me from. Welcome to today's session. So, please, if you can hear me, go ahead to drop a message in the comment section so that I'm sure that you can hear me, guys. So I'm just waiting for your comment. Once I see a comment, I would go ahead and proceed with the class. So let me know, please. So if you're on the call, still go ahead to drop a message on the chat so that others know that the class is live and they can join the call. So just do that as well. We'll give like about 2 minutes to have that done. Just say 1 minute, 2 minutes. Let's have that done, please. Let's have that quickly done. Okay, I'll go ahead to present my screen. I don't think I need to reintroduce myself. Many of you have been in a class that I've taught. Probably if you attended the first and second classes, you'd have seen the classes I taught. But I'll go ahead to just reintroduce myself. My name is Wamaka Wonsu. I'm a UX consultant, and I happen to be your instructor for today. For today, we'll be looking at this particular topic, and I think it's very necessary for everyone moving ahead with their careers, portfolio, career path, and next step. So, if you can see my screen, please go ahead to let me know that okay, you can see my screen. Let's proceed from there. So, just let me know if you can see my screen. Go ahead and drop a message. Let me be sure that you can see my screen and then we'll proceed from there. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So you can see me, you can hear me. All right, beautiful. So the first part of this class today, we're looking at okay, the portfolio, our career path, and the next steps. Now, coming into design from class one to today, this is our seventh class yet. No, this is our sixth class. Um, Beginning till now, we have talked about okay, introduction to UI UX, who is a UI UX designer, tools you use, best communication skills, how to come up with texts, how to come up with your case studies, how to work with colors. We have discussed laws of design, both colors, hierarchy, and all of that. And then in our other, I think the Q&A session, we also talked about the different laws of UX and how best they come into play. We have also talked about how to use Figma. I think, yes, we have a full playlist that everyone has watched. And also the last instructor we had, that John. John spoke about designing, how best to work on your design, and how to progress from there. So now moving forward, we are here, portfolio, career, and next steps. So for next steps, the first question you're asking, the first thing I would say is your portfolio is more than pretty pictures. Now, most times when we talk about, oh, work on your design portfolio, what most people think the design portfolio is a picture of everything. Like, I have beautiful pictures everywhere. It proves that I know how to design. It proves that I know what I'm doing. But in actual sense, a beautiful portfolio, it's not the main thing, because it's one thing to have a very colorful portfolio that shows a lot of things, and it's one thing to have a portfolio that shows your strength. Remember, over time you have been told that you're not just a designer, you're a psychologist, because you have to understand how your users think. You are kind of a business person because you are designing not for yourself, but to make sure that the business makes money and profit as well. So it means that if you are going to present your portfolio, let me use that word. If you're going to present your portfolio as part of any admission, sorry, as part of um your portfolio, as you submit your CVs or apply for a job, one thing that comes to mind is that what will your portfolio showcase? So, what a good portfolio should showcase is your problem solving approach. It's not just showcasing that, oh, I did this, I did that. Good. You have your visuals. I can see your visuals. But what are these visuals saying? Are they telling a story? Are they telling me that, oh, the reason that I have this particular screen here and this one here, is it trying to solve a problem? Is it trying to solve a problem? Then two, it's also showing how you think and make decisions. Now, for thinking and making decisions, it's more or less showing your brain power. Why did you decide that this color should be used? Why did you decide that we are having this icon here instead of this other icon? Why did you decide that instead of the users to move from point A to point B, they are moving from point A to point F? So it has to bring all this into play. And then another thing is, what value do you bring to a project? Because you're not just brought on this project because you want to be brought on this project, but you are brought on this project because you are bringing value. So if a company is to employ you, what value are you bringing? That's another thing. So I would like to say, now it's even in creating your portfolio, remember that it's all about storytelling. You're telling them that, oh, this is why this happened, and this is it. Just make sure that your designs are, your portfolio is standing out. Then another thing to put in mind is building a portfolio that gets noticed. Now, it's one thing to have a portfolio and have a lot of designs inside, but then not have a direction. It's another thing to have a portfolio that shows a pathway or shows a direction. For example, I would go with quality over quantity. Now, some people will tell you, oh, as a junior designer, you have to have over 5 to 10 projects on your portfolio. To an extent, I feel it's too much for a junior, but at the same time, it's not a quantity game for design. So you can go ahead to have 2 or 3 strong projects, then maybe random project, but make sure that, okay, if I'm going to design, I'm not just designing because I want to design. Go ahead to think about it that, okay, these are the existing industries. What do I want to design, and how best do I want it to, how do I want it to stay? For example, if I should say, okay, I'm looking at my portfolio now, what do I have? I probably have a healthcare app. I probably have something for the what do they call them? The aerospace, the aviation industry. I also have something for finance. These are three strong areas. So if I choose to say, okay, I'm applying for a job, I can say, okay, I would apply for a fintech industry because I have worked on a project that works perfectly in fintech. I've worked on a project that works perfectly in real estate. And I've also worked on a project that works perfectly in what they call it, aviation. So this gives you a strong point. So that at the end of the day, if your employer should look at it, they say, oh, okay, this person has done something in my industry, so why not? They can go ahead to want to see what you can do. Then another thing is case studies. Don't just put pictures there. In your case study, go ahead to explain, oh, this is the problem, this is the process, and this is the solution. Now, you might not always get the measurable results, but be sure to make sure that your problem, your process, and your solution is there. It more or less shows, okay, this is your design thinking approach. This is how you solve problems, and this is it. Then another thing is show real work. So you might say, oh, I cannot volunteer, I cannot do this. I think if you're just coming into design, one thing you should do is volunteer. Don't volunteer so that you stretch yourself thin. Volunteer in such a way that at the end of the day, you have you still be, you would learn, but then you're not stretched too thin. Yeah, you're just learning, and then you're in one place and you're learning a whole lot of things. So volunteering helps you get more experience than expected, and then it shows you how this actually works in real life. Because even when you start your project phase, you'd understand how it works in real life. The more exposure you get to how things work in real life, the better. And it's something that shouldn't be taken for granted. Yeah. Then another thing is review your process. So don't just hide it. Show, okay, now show, okay, from wireframe to sketches to iteration. You can do well to show that. If you don't want to do that, you can just go ahead to show just wireframe, tell them how you walk through it. Like, make sure that it is clearly stated in your portfolio. Then the structure of your design. your portfolio. As much as possible, these are the four things I would say you should have in your portfolio. About me. Now, in creating your portfolio, you can choose to have an actual website, or you can choose to use a no-code tool to build something like a website, or you can use something like Notion, Webflow, Framer, and the likes to get yourself a one-pager to explain what you do. Make sure that you're going to share about you. You are simply telling your employee or anybody that wants to work with you that, okay, this is who I'm going to work with, this is their ideas, and this is what they share. It's also going to show your project slash case studies. It's telling them that, okay, this is what you have worked on, these are the explanations, this is my thinking process, and then you can go ahead to talk about your tools and your skills so that they know that, okay, this is what you have, and then this is what they can get from you. And if this you have things that you want to work with, and then your contact information. With that being said, I think I would also add this. And if you're going to send a CV, always make sure that your CV is in PDF format and not doc format. PDF format is very, 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 very important so that they open your CV easily. Now, um, another thing you should notice that in coming on with your portfolio, like we said earlier, if you're going to have pretty designs, make sure to give content. Don't make your employees or let's say the agencies or people you tend to work with wonder why why am I looking at this? Because give them solutions that when they look at it, they are able to understand, okay, this guy did this because of this, and then it works. Now, copy and paste. If we say copy and paste word, it doesn't really demonstrate your abilities. But for copy and paste, what it does for you at the end of the day is that it explains why certain things should happen, like why this buttons was used instead of the next button, and why this happened instead of this. Like there are, how do I put it? There are certain things it explains and then it teaches you as well. And even at the end of the day, you can still put it in your work, but there's a limit to how much you can put. And then it's another thing you can do is tweak it as well, so that at the end of the day you can say, okay, it was like this, but I made it this because I felt this is supposed to happen, and now this is it. Then always make sure that you put your process so that it's easy to approach your challenges and how you solve them. Then another thing to do when creating your portfolio is avoid your portfolio overload. Don't just add a lot of projects. The thing is, based on the role you're applying for, add projects that are your strong hold or your strong fit, projects that are properly, how will I put it, project that has a lot of information or has a lot of details depending on the industry you're going for. Make sure that it's better to have four projects that show a clear sign of, okay, how you think, how you approach problems, and why you create your designs, than to have about 10 to 20 designs on your portfolio and we cannot point out how does this person think, how did they get to this point of their design, how did they arrive here. So it's something to place in mind as well. Then another thing to note is, okay, you're currently a UI UX designer. What steps can you take if you choose to diversify based on your strengths? Because I think one thing we know is UI is user interaction, UX is user experience. They are two different fields, meaning that they have two different ladders to walk through. And I just went ahead to put some here. We have the UI UX design. For the UI UX design, you know that a UI designer here focuses on visuals, layout, typography systems. If you remember our first class, I basically said UI designer is like an interior decorator. Then for your UX specializes more in research, wireframing, and information architecture, as well as usability testing. We're saying, okay, what is the research? How do we get here? And if you still remember that first class, I likened the UX designer to an architect. So this is what a UX designer do. This is another career path you can choose to consider. Another career path here that you might likely consider as well is a product designer. A product designer, however, is not a standalone like a UI designer or UX designer. It's more of a combination of both. And then the interesting part is they kind of have product strategy. So they understand a bit about the product and how it should work. And then they also handle end-to-end ownership alongside the product manager. Then UX researchers. So researchers focus mainly on interviewing, conducting interviews, usability testing, and translating data into actionable insight. So they go out into the field, they tend to observe people and understand, okay, now these are the people we're giving, this app has been created for. How do they react to it? How do they work with it? And the likes. Another thing we have here is design ops slash manager. Now, for design ops, we are saying who is a design ops and why. Design ops are basically more like DevOps. If you have heard about DevOps, design ops are just like DevOps. They go ahead to develop processes and system to skill design team. They're just making sure that okay, everything is in place, everything is well put together, and then it works hand by hand and side by side to get that actual product you're working on. Another thing is interaction designer. So you have seen all those animations that move on designs or move on websites and the likes. If you're someone who is interested in having those images and all those interactions you see happening on websites and the like, you can go ahead to be an interaction designer because majorly they create animations, transitions, and micro interactions to build user experience and then give make sure the user understand it. Now the beautiful part is as a UI UX designer, you have certain companies you can work with. You can work with agencies. Now as an intern, I think working with agencies would help because it builds your portfolio faster. That's number one. But two, it has a lot of pressure. But if you can handle it, that's a fine space to be in. Startups as well. In startups, you just know that you're going to wear multiple hats and then it's going to be a very fast space, just like agencies. You have a lot of things and then it's more like you have to change and then it helps you build faster and then grow larger. But then if you also get to work in large companies, at this point you have specialized roles in the sense that you have you can just solely be a UI designer or a UX designer or an interaction designer or a product designer. It depends how far you have grown by the time you enter a large company. But one thing you know is that in large companies, your roles are highly specialized. They're not like where you have a combination. But then not all, but some do that very well. Then another thing to take into mind is freelance slash consulting. For freelancers, it's more or less like you're your own boss. You do your own thing. You decide who you work with, when you work, and all of that. So, at best, each environment is different for developing your skills and advancing your career. It's then dependent on you yourself saying, okay, how fast do I want to grow? Where do I want to be in the next 4 years? How do I plan to achieve all of that? So, another thing here to put into mind is okay, next steps after learning the basics. You have learned the basics. You've understood how it works, and now you're soon going to build a new project. So you have to build projects. Like I said earlier on, you have to build your project, you have to document your process as much as possible. Document your process, both if you're doing it online or in the document you're working in. Basically, this is a we're talking about portfolio. So documenting your process is adding your process into your portfolio to say, okay, this is how I move from point A to point B. This is why I made a redesign of this particular website so that you can see how it will be if it is this way. Another thing to do is network actively. Yeah, network actively. So join Discord groups, join LinkedIn groups, attend local events if you can, find free events and attend. If you can't go for the paid event, then apply strategically. That's what I'm saying, that in your portfolio have at least three strong projects so that you know the companies you're going for, you know the industry you want to work with, and then you also know that, oh, my portfolio is strong enough to back me in this industry, or at least to get me into the interview phase. Then one thing I would also say is keep learning. Design doesn't ever stop. We design for UI UX design. It's a very fast changing field. It changes really fast. It feels like As you blink your eye, there's a new trend. As you blink your eyes, there's something raining. As you blink your eyes, you see glassmorphism, you see you just see different trends coming up. So you just have to be sure that okay, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to keep up with the design trends, the tools, and develop crucial skills. I think on this part, I'll talk about essential tools for designers. I think we've said it previously, but then I'll repeat it again. For design tools, you have Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD. As much as possible, try to just use these tools. I know Figma is like the popular one at the moment, but go ahead to try the others. They are not so different. They have similarities, so it won't be so it won't come as a huge shock for you, but know or try as much tools as possible, design tools as possible, so that you can get into any industry. Then for your research tools, we have Google Forms, Maze, workshops and the likes. Then for collaboration, you have Notion, Miro, Whimsicala, and what else again? We have Slack. Then another thing to put into mind is for your portfolio, you can use Behance, you can use Dribble, you can still use Webflow or Notion. Then this is one part I believe every designer should know. If I've said it before, but as a designer, you cannot be introverted because you have to speak to stakeholders. You have to be in team meetings where you get to interact with developers, product managers, and stakeholders, meaning that you have to know how to speak and communicate clearly. Because at the end of the day, communication is key, and to a large extent, it's your secret weapon because design is 50% visuals and 50% communication. If you cannot explain how your work is, it can just be maybe the difference between you getting hired and being overlooked. Because if you go to an interview and they ask you to explain a particular thing and you can't explain how are you going to get hired, because as designers we get questioned for everything. You're being questioned for the decision you made. You're being questioned why the design is this way. You're being questioned about the color. You're being questioned about positions. And then you receive a lot of feedback. So, how are you going to do all of this? So, remember your communication is highly essential. You have to learn to explain your design decisions with clarity and confidence. At first, you might say, oh, how am I going to do that? I'm just starting out. Just do it. Try as much as possible to explain. At the back of your mind, just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to explain this and break it down as much as possible. Nobody started out being a superhero. I'm just starting out, but I know I will get a hang of this. Then receive your feedback constructively without ego. Don't hear when someone or when you're giving a feedback and then you're told that, oh, this shouldn't work, or this shouldn't work this way, this shouldn't be placed that way, and then you feel all hot about their approach. Thing is, there would always be feedback because you're not just designing for yourself, you're designing for the business, you're designing for the stakeholders. So there might be a reason why this is not going to work. And even after designing, at times, you tend to get feedback from developers because you might put something that in real sense will not work in engineering. So they will let you know. So accept feedback and don't feel all, oh, they're trying to ride over me kind of thing. It might come at the beginning of your career, but learn to try to tune it down and evolve as time goes. Then in writing your case study, write your case studies like you're telling a story. My best bet I would say is write your case study like you're living your everyday life. Just write it, but then write it in such a way that if someone picks it up, they want to read to the end. And you might not even be a good storyteller, but at least you write your case studies in such a way that it's clear and understandable. Then learn to present your work. As you're designing, put it at the back of your mind that I'm going to have to present this work to somebody. So learn how you're going to present it. Probably you can rehearse in front of a mirror or something, but learn how to present your work. And then if you're also presenting, learn to use simple English, not something that would refer to as say, oh, it's jargons or something. Just learn to use simple English. It makes life easier for you and for everyone. Then I think the most this quote here is good designer is poorly explained in signal design. The ability to communicate your process is just as important as your design itself. So I think as your design itself. So another thing here is confidence is perfection. Confidence plus perfection equals to clarity. You don't expect to be confident 100%, but you should be confident enough to explain your work because you put in the work, you understood what is happening. So you should do that. If you think you're going to be shy, like I said, explain in front, try talking or explaining in front of a mirror. You can record yourself, rewatch it, and improve. I think that's one thing that helped me because I didn't like listening to my own voice. But the more I kept recording and playing it, I knew where and how to make that improvement when I speak or try to explain certain things. Then the best way to grow your career is a strong portfolio, good communication skills, presentation skills. Now, if you have these three, believe me, you go faster. And then I think I'll add to this part: know how to show your work. Don't just hide your work. You might not be the type of person who posts all the time on social media, but at least once in a while or once in a week or twice in a week, try to push out something you work on so that at least people can see your work and just somebody might just be interested in how you put your work together or how you push it out there, and that is it. Some people have gotten jobs that they never applied for. The only reason they got the job is they talked about a particular project they have worked on, probably on LinkedIn, Facebook, and even Twitter itself, and that's how they got their job. So before I end this session, I would like to leave you with this advice. One, your portfolio would get you noticed because if you have a very good portfolio that stands out, a recruiter can tell another recruiter that "Eh, this particular CV I have, even though we didn't take this person, I think you should have a look at it, and probably you guys can take him because of years of experience or something like that. But if your portfolio get noticed, a recruiter can share it with their friends that are also recruiter, and that's one way. Two, your communication gets you understood. So you should be as clear as possible. You don't have to try to prove anything to anyone by using just big words and designs. You can go ahead to like explain in simple English and that works. Then your presentation skills would also get you remembered. So I think with all of this put together, it can land you a job and then help you grow. So that is all for me. If you have any questions about this particular class, you can go ahead to drop your questions in the chat. Let me pick it up. So I'll be returning back to my chat screen. Just let me know if you have any questions. So I can see the chat now. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop it and let me pick it up. Thank you. Meanwhile, remember your attendance will be in the chat, so you can do well to fill that as well. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Let's pick it up from there. Thank you so much. Are there any questions, guys? So I'm looking at the chat. There are no questions. Okay. So if there are no questions, please go ahead and fill your attendance form. If at any time you have any question, you can go ahead to drop it on Discord. I would also like to point out that some materials were dropped in the discourse resource channel for UI UX designers. So you can go there, have a look at the resources, go through them, pick a thing or two, and remember that we have a Q&A session that happens on Saturday. Oh, no, sorry about that. The date will be communicated to you, but we have a Q&A session. But if you have questions, drop it on Discord and someone will attend to you. Even if it is about Figma and the likes, just go ahead to drop your questions there. If there are no questions, I would have the countdown. up so that I give you enough time to answer to fill your form. So good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're watching from. See you in your next class. Bye guys.